Hi there, this is Dave Champion with Northeast Electrical Distributors. Thank you for joining me today for an update on the condition sensing products from Rockwell Automation, Allen Bradley. Many of you may already be familiar with the product line that was introduced a few years ago. This is a series of solid-state stainless steel devices. Allen Bradley's always been a leader in condition sensing, whether it be temperature switches or pressure switches. In this case, they introduced a series of solid-state temperature switches and pressure switches. They also include in the family a line of level sensing switches and flow sensing switches. In this case, I want to introduce you to a couple of new members that will be replacing, in particular, the pressure and temperature families. The first new members are in the pressure sensing family. They are comprised of a new display version and a new non-display version. In both cases, they are very rugged, IP67 rated. In the case of the display version, one of the newest and most exciting features is the I/O link capability that's been added. But first, let's take a look at the non-display version. Here's an example of a non-display version, handling pressures up to 10,000 psi. As you can see, there's a variety of different process connections available. The wetted parts, the pressure sensitive parts, are 316 stainless for corrosion resistance. And as you might also be able to see, in this case, this really is a pressure transducer providing a 4 to 20 milliamp output, not a pressure switch providing a discrete output. The new display version, as you may have noticed from one of the first slides, has a rotatable display and a rotatable head, and actually allows you to invert the digital display for easy viewing pretty much wherever it's mounted. It also has 316 stainless wetted parts, comes in the same variety of process connections, and is available in a couple of different versions. One that is a true switch and will supply 2 PNP outputs, or one that combines switch functionality with 1 PNP output and process capability with a 4 to 20 milliamp output signal. Here's a little bit better view of the front and some of the operator interface on the face. It's got a bright display. It can be put into a display mode, which is the typical operational function, or a programming mode. It's got keys for info and menu navigation, and a couple of status output lights up on top, particularly suited for the 2 PNP output version. Here's a little configuration of how these are wired. It gives you a little bit of an example on how the I/O link is actually gotten into the I/O link master. The non-display version is very simple. Pins 1 and 3 in this case provide a 4 to 20 milliamp signal proportional to the pressure. On the display version, however, there's a 4-pin connection. On the standard 2 PNP version, both pins 4 and 2 supply an output, but the I/O link capability is carried on pin 4. So in this case, you could have a second manual physical output and an I/O link connection. Similarly, on the 4 to 20 amp output version, milliamp output version, the output on pin 4, which would normally be a PNP, is capable of the I/O link connection to an I/O link master. Between pin 2 and pin 3 is the 4 to 20 milliamp process signal. These pressure switches transducers actually come with test certifications, and here is an example. To utilize I/O link more efficiently, along with most of the family members who are I/O link enabled, there is an AOP for use in Studio 5000. Here's an example. Here's the tech specs. Again, as you can see, 2 output types, either 2 discrete outputs or a discrete output and a process output, either of which are I/O link enabled. The second type of condition sensor to be redesigned is the temperature switch or transducer portfolio. In this case, similar to what you saw in the pressure switches, there's a display version with a rotatable head and display. There's a non-display version, and a new member to the temperature sensing family for Allen Bradley is an RTD version that, rather than giving a 4 to 20 process out or discrete output, provides essentially a resistance RTD device, lower cost and typically more rugged. First, let's take a look at the non-display version. Very compact design with a wide temperature measurement range up to 250 degrees C. It comes in a variety of process connections, but it also comes in a variety of probe lengths. Also, IP67 and 69 rated. As you can see the wiring diagram, it is a transducer with a 4 to 20 milliamp output, and again, that's between pin 1 and 3. Here's an example of the slight differences in our existing 837E line and the 837T line, which is the new family. Overall, a little bit more compact, a little bit wider sensing range, a more cost-competitive structure. Rockwell has also added to the family an RTD detector. This is, again, very cost-effective solution. Kind of provides an extended temperature range. Would typically be wired into an RTD input card as opposed to an analog input module or an I/O link master. Shown below is the 837T D or display version. Again, like the pressure sensor, the display version gets I/O link enablement. Here's a lineup of the temperature sensors in the family. Again, first, the RTD, the new RTD sensor, the non-display version of the new temperature sensor. Again, a 4 to 20 milliamp output as opposed to a resistance, typically going into an analog input card. And then finally, the display version, which is I/O link enabled. Similarly to the pressure, it has 2 varieties, one that has 2 PNP discrete outputs, or one that has 1 discrete output and a 4 to 20 milliamp analog output. And this slide just shows a little bit of the variations on the RTD sensor. Comes in a couple of different temperature ranges and at least 2 different process connections. And again, like the regular temperature sensor, comes in a variety of probe lengths. Thank you for listening in to the condition sensing update. Again, the temperature and pressure lines have been updated. They'll be replacing the older 836 and 837 lines. Look in the future for updates to the existing products, particularly the flow sensing products. Thank you again for listening in. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or